love the feeling years. I think first through third grade, I just love to be around them and see them and talk to them more than teach them. I find it actually a little frustrating. But once they get to about 9 years old and they got their very basics down, basics, like computation and reading and writing, they still have that openness and that sweetness and that ability to be inspired. And especially, I love to read aloud stories, great literature, great children's literature to them, as they feel it so deeply. And you don't have to analyze the literature. It just speaks directly to them, to their soul. They love animals. They love nature. But they also now are getting excited by ideas and things, competencies they have. And when you teach them to do something new and they realize, oh, I can write a 5-paragraph report, there's a great feeling of satisfaction on their part, and of course on the teacher's part, that you've helped them. So the feeling years, I like it because the arts are really important even in the classroom, the intellectual teaching, not even in the classroom, but even in subjects that aren't the arts. You can teach through the arts, meaning through dance, through singing, through, like I mentioned to you, the unit on birds, where the kids who wanted to got to model different bird feet with bird claws, with clay. It's just fun because you get to bring, I think I love it because I get to bring all parts, all the tools of maturity together. But you can do that at every age. You should be using all tools of maturity. I think it was important for me to teach the feeling years because it really opened my heart. Yeah.
What is the feeling years again? Which age?
Ages 6 through 11, 6 up into 12. But actually, I think, even though those are corresponding to the Jupiter cycles, at least in American society, I think when kids start going through puberty, that will comes on pretty strong, whether it's at 11, 12, 13, yeah. But yeah, about, older 5s up through age 11, 12, and then they start needing more challenge, more ways to express their will in the world. These ages are very receptive on the feeling level. They're receptive actually on every level. Most children are, unless they've had to block their hearts because they've been exposed to things they shouldn't have been. Yeah.
Do you find that over the years, just with the world changing and media and everything, that have you noticed a change in children, just in their maturity level or what their interests are based on, what they're experiencing in the world? Have you noticed a change over the years?
One positive change I've seen is that when I very first started teaching, there was still a real concept in people's minds of male roles and female roles. And today I see with children, there's much more openness and diversity and appreciation of girls in sports. And there's no concept that to be a professional, you would need to be a boy. It was very different when I started teaching. And that's just totally not in the consciousness of kids anymore.
Wow, that's so great.
That is great. A negative thing I've seen is because the media and the movies and everything has just gotten more and more sexualized over the year. I feel like kids are trying to, at a younger and younger age all the time, are trying to imitate. They want to grow up so fast. They want to be a teenager. They see teenage videos, the videos that a child 9 or 10 watches are videos of teenage girls and boys. And so they want to be that, and they forget about being, unless they're in their parents have them in an environment where a lot of like-minded families are protecting them against all those influences. They don't get to be children as long. But another thing I've seen, and I don't say this is negative or positive, but I feel like kids are either they're more and more sensitive, or as a society, we're becoming more and more sensitive and noticing. So many kids have allergies. So many kids have ADHD, which oftentimes they don't really have ADHD, but they're just so sensitive to stimulating environments that they can't cope with it. And so they become, you know, what's the right word? I'm having trouble in the words. They become, oh, clarity. I got a cut here. What's that? Oh, it's terrible when it's just like.
Overstimulated?
No, I want to make a personal comment, may I?
Oh, go ahead.
It's just so funny. It's like when your hormones, when you're older, it's like you're going through hormonal periods again, only it's just aging, you know, and the estrogen is not there and the brain goes, what's that word? Distracted. That's it.
Distracted, okay.
A simple word like distracted. Anyway, I can start that over.
Well, you're on vacation mode right now too, so.
I'm what?
You're on vacation mode as well right now. So.
Thank you. You're oh my gosh. So an ADHD, a kid who might be diagnosed as ADHD or whatever, there's so many acronyms. I've noticed sometimes when they would come to our school, they really settled down and were able to focus. And I felt like what it was is they were just so sensitive to stimulation in the environment. And they were also very sensitive to teasing and bullies, even if they weren't the object of it. They didn't even like to be around that. And all that was so distracting to them that they couldn't focus on learning. But I just noticed kids, you know, there's way more autism. I don't know if that has to do with sensitivity or not. That's something apart from what I'm talking about. But it just feels like kids that come in, their consciousness is a little more aware of what's happening around them, a little more aware of others. And sometimes that's a positive. It's always a positive if you know how to give them a good environment. But if not, it's very hard for them. Yeah.
Interesting topic, actually. So you have noticed in kids that there is more of a sensitivity, like you're saying. And yeah, I know we've touched upon a few points, but what would be some ways of sort of nurturing or reaching out or working with kids that have that kind of extreme sensitivity? Because I also feel like, even just with my own son, with Kala, I noticed that he is extremely aware, even though he's only 2 years old. And I noticed that quality about him since he was born, actually. He is extremely aware, and he's also extremely sensitive. And I just feel like I agree that there are more children like that right now coming in. And how do you create an environment that really nurtures that quality in them without it becoming, I don't know what the word would be, like, we don't want to squash that quality because it's a beautiful quality, like you say, but is it a strength and a weakness, or what's your thoughts around?
Well, I do think it's a strength, but I also think that we have to, during the feeling years, you know, up until they want to express their will in the world more, but we need to surround them with a very healthy, nurturing environment and people so that their true selves can flower. They don't have to shut down. And when hard things do happen, and they will happen even in the best environment, and they also will hear about things happening in the world, whether during my teaching, some of the things that we had to help students process were the war, the Gulf War, the Twin Towers. That was a really big one. Now the pandemic. And so part of it is, I think, being somewhat forthright and honest with children about what's going on. I mean, we don't have to share our deepest fears or frighten them unduly, but also reassuring them that they can cope with things, and reassuring them that loved ones will be there, and you can't just always say, well, I'll always be here, because you're not God. You don't know that you won't be in an automobile accident tomorrow. You want to be real with what you reassure them, but mention the family members, the people who care for them. And a lot of helping those overly sensitive kids is just giving them tools to deal with things when it's too much for them. And this is something I did a lot in the feeling years, was teaching them how to calm themselves through the body, how to deep breathe, how to breathe slowly, and being sure to actually do that at times where, at real times, when real situations, like before you're putting on a little class play, and they're all excited, and then if you've practiced breathing, you can get them beforehand and say, wait, you're all nervous, let's don't be nervous, let's practice our breathing. And one of our teachers at the school here, Matthew, I hope you interview him, he has about 3 or 4 different types of breathing that they can do, and they're really cute. I can't think of any of them right now. One that I used to do was keeping a tissue in the air. So you take a deep breath, and then you'd blow out short breaths to keep the tissue in the air, like, and you finish doing that, and there's, your body, because your respiration has changed, your consciousness changes. Well, anyway, so actually practicing things in those real times, teaching them how, if they're nervous about a test, how they can stretch their calf muscles, and just different things like that. Giving them coping mechanisms. And one of those coping mechanisms is to help others, that they have the power to help others. So not just in a distant sense of, well, let's raise money for those children and who are starving in Africa or whatever, but something more close to home, like what child in your class is unhappy, or a neighbor loses a pet. What do you take over? How do you show that, show sympathy, empathy to that family? Help bringing your child into empowering them to be able to give love, to be able to take care of others, gives them a sense of competency. So that's one of the answers that comes to mind. I'm sure you can ask several different teachers and get several different good answers.
Yeah, I love that answer. And I was just remembering on your questionnaire, you said you love to give the children physical activities that connect the left and right sides of the brain. What would that kind of include, or can you talk about that?
Well, the traditional one that just about every teacher will have heard of is cross crawl. It's where you march in place, you touch your opposite knee to the opposite hand. So you're crossing the midline of the body, and you're using opposite sides of the body at the same time, the left leg and the right hand. That helps myelinate the 2 sides of the brain. But all kinds of things help the brain connect in new and different ways. One of the things I would do with the kids is, 2 years ago, actually it was the beginning of this year, I started out teaching middle school English, and then the high school English teacher wanted to switch with me, and so I switched. But when I was teaching the middle school English, one of the things I'd have them do is, I'd say, can you do this? And they go, oh, of course we can do that. And they'd do that. And then I'd say, okay, start with your little finger on one hand, your thumb on the other. And then they could do it really slowly. Well, then speed up. And they just, you get all, it's hard because the brain has to tell the 2 hands to do 2 different things.
Yeah.
All kinds of activities exist that do this. And they really help kids, not only giving their brain flexibility, but just to get in the body. Another one is sometimes if they're kind of needing to calm down is, give them maybe a chance to expend some energy. Let's all get up and do some jumping jacks or whatever, but then giving them some way to come back into their body, like saying, put your middle finger of one hand in your navel and the other at you could call it spiritual eye, or point between the eyebrows, and pull in, push in. Inhale, pull up. Exhale, relax down. Inhale, pull up. Exhale, relax down. So if you tried to get them to do pranayama, that's like, what? Count and all that, but something simple like that. it really helps.